If we're going to discuss Israel's impact on the world around them, we've got to discuss genocide.
So Joshua subdued the whole region, including the hill country, the Negev, the western foothills, and the mountain slopes, together with all their kings. He left no survivors. He totally destroyed all who breathed, just as the Lord, the God of Israel, had commanded.
For any halfway moral person, verses like this should cause you to feel tremendously morally uncomfortable. Theological concepts like everyone being in the image of God and life being sacred and not punishing people for the sins of others is foundational to everything we understand about being a Christian. Areas like compassion and charity that were so championed by Christians seem to be entirely missing from verses like this. The Christian church and the vast majority of humanity universally recognize that genocide is a terrific evil that should be stopped in all circumstances. And if we're going to claim that the covenant with Joshua and the people was a missional covenant to transform the world around them, how can we wrestle with issues like apparent commands for genocide? There are three options we're going to discuss today. Theory number one. This is a form of Herem Warfare. Herem Warfare is a form of warfare specifically commanded by God for the Hebrew people. The idea behind it is God is commanding his people to avoid the strictly lucrative elements of warfare. For those of you who don't know, war is great for business. All food, all clothes, all precious metal, all money would all be taken by the invading army as their wages for fighting a war. Worst of all, human beings themselves were regularly the plunder of lucrative warfare. The slave trade was founded on warring nations, particularly European nations, that wanted to destroy and subjugate other nations. And to turn that subjugation into pure profit, good people from colonized nations were regularly sold into slavery. This atrocious and barbaric practice was encouraged as it was so financially lucrative. And once the nation had been invaded, it was usually colonized and administered by the colonizing nation. The colonizing country would then transform the colonized country's legal situation, religious situation, and family situation in order to extract as much benefit from those people as humanly possible. An appalling and destructive stain on human history. Herem warfare, on the other hand, was unique. God's people are specifically commanded not to take treasure from the people they were invading. And possibly the command to kill everyone was so that they would not take slaves into their people, therefore destroying the despicable excuse for the lucrative side of warfare. If people knew that warfare should not and could not be profitable, they would be less inclined to be a colonial power. The command for genocide may have been God's way of destroying their ability to have a lucrative military-industrial complex develop out of his command to subjugate the area. Theory number two, the command to kill all people was hyperbole. This theory contends that God's people were never supposed to wipe out all of the people living in an area, rather it was just a form of over-exaggerated language meant to emphasize they were supposed to subject the inhabitants. We see other groups like the Egyptians use phrases like totally destroy or wiped out all that breathed in discussing their relationship with other nations. In the very famous Merneptah stele, which contains the earliest non-biblical reference to the nation of Israel, the Egyptian state, Israel is laid waste, its seed is no more, implying that they have utterly destroyed the people of Israel. Which we know not to be true, otherwise we wouldn't even be having this class. To back up this theory, we can actually look at something like Deuteronomy 7.
When the Lord your God has delivered them over to you, you have defeated them, then you must destroy them totally. Make no treaty with them and show them no mercy. Do not intermarry with them. Do not give your daughters to their sons, nor take your daughters for your sons.
So if God commands someone to wipe out an entire nation, why would you then have to go and command them not to go and marry their daughters? Kind of a weird commandment. But it wouldn't be weird if they understood the language to be hyperbolic language, that they weren't actually supposed to literally destroy all of the people living in the land. So theory number two is the command is hyperbolic. Theory number three, the command is literal. God could genuinely have been asking the Hebrew people to act as his form of judgment against a nation and wipe out all of the people living in the land. Many historians have proposed that the Canaanites were so fundamentally wicked and corrupt that they had to be destroyed for the betterment of humanity. Irish archaeologist Stuart McAllister famously found a Canaanite high place in the city of Gezer. Around this Canaanite high place were the remains of dozens of bodies of little children. These little children had been murdered in the most brutal manner, including being sawn in two or being decapitated. The bodies were then burnt and placed inside a jar as a clear sign that they were being an offering unto the Canaanite gods. Discoveries such as these give ample evidence as to what a deplorable and reprehensible society the Canaanite cities were. Throughout human history, militaries have been called upon to destroy other groups because they posed such a threat to the world around them. Some people have argued that the behavior of certain groups was so destructive that it could influence or even destroy surrounding nations. People argued that because of issues like temple prostitution and baby sacrificing, which could have been very common in Canaan, that their wickedness was so atrocious that destroying them was considered the best option. This is a tough call to make. Is it acceptable to wipe out entire civilizations because their behavior had become so atrocious? It's a tough call, and I'm afraid you'll have to decide.